It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the UAlbany Great Danes head women's basketball coach, Coach Colleen Mullins. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you talk
Great.
about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's basketball?
Sure. I think I always kind of looked at myself as a competitor. And at a very young age, I loved sports. So I was interested in all kinds of sports. And I kind of took to basketball, not really sure because I wasn't blessed with the height gene. I could have picked a slew of other options, but I chose the one that you have to be tall to play. And I had, a really successful career in college. I had kind of a unique situation where I transferred back when transferring wasn't a thing from the University of Rhode Island to the University of New Hampshire. And I think in that transition, I really realized the lasting impression that coaches have on their players. And being passionate about basketball was one thing, but I really had a strong desire to give back and mentor young women. And I think that transition kind of solidified my desire to get into coaching. And getting into coaching wasn't that easy. It took a long time, but I really think I was always destined to be some sort of teacher or educator. And my passion is definitely leading and motivating young people. And I get to do that through the sport that I love, which is basketball.
What was that experience like for you going to first Rhode Island and getting to play collegiate basketball at Rhode Island?
I mean, it was a dream come true. I was, as a young girl, I envisioned myself playing on the fifth and sixth grade travel team. And then as I went through middle school, I envisioned myself playing on the high school varsity team and practicing in my driveway and doing layup lines and envisioning I was in the high school, and then soon that dream became college. And my parents and family made a lot of sacrifices and spent a lot of money for me to play AAU basketball and travel all over the country. And I had the opportunity to get recruited by some schools, and it was a really hard decision. The recruiting process is really difficult. And I think now as a coach, I'm always trying to mentor even the recruits that don't come to Albany about the process because it can feel very daunting and confusing. But when I made the choice to go to the University of Rhode Island, I was really excited because at the time, the Atlantic 10 was one of the most competitive leagues in the country. I had some great coaches and that recruited me. Dana Smith, who is the previous head coach at Cornell, actually was in charge of recruiting me. And playing in the Atlantic 10 and playing at the highest level was really a dream, especially for somebody that was told often that they weren't going to be able to make it to that level or that I wasn't tall enough or physically gifted enough to be able to do that. And I'm definitely motivated into proving people wrong.
As a player, what was that like getting to put on both the Rhode Island jersey and the New England jersey?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an honor to be able to go to a school and be chosen to be, a starting point guard as a freshman, which was a lot of pressure. But unfortunately, while I was at Rhode Island, I went through multiple coaching changes and a lot of the team ended up leaving. There was a lot of transition. So I was lucky enough that the University of New Hampshire, who had originally recruited me, in high school, was like, "Hey, Colleen, why don't you come play at UNH instead?" And I said, "Wow, that's amazing. A little bit closer to home and amazing academic institution." And I just feel so grateful and so blessed to have made lifelong friends at both schools and played for coaches, that have really cared about me and mentored me, especially at UNH. And head coach Sue Johnson has had a big impact on me even since I've graduated. And I'm truly grateful, and I call on that experience a lot. It gives me a lot of confidence and a lot of pride to accomplish, what I'm my goals, my dreams now.
Coming out of college, what was that transition like for you going from being a player to coaching at Southern New Hampshire?
Yeah, so after I graduated from college, I did a fifth year because I transferred. I spent an entire year trying to become a coach, and it was impossible. I sent over 100 resumes to coaches. I was applying to be equipment managers, marketing interns, anything I could do to be in college athletics and eventually get into coaching. And it took me a year. I didn't get a job. I worked as a beverage salesperson. I drove around a big truck. And then I did human resources for a year. And finally, I got hired to be a director of basketball operations, but it was in Illinois. So I moved from north of Boston, Massachusetts. I packed my Pathfinder, my Nissan Pathfinder, went off to Illinois to be a Dobo. And then after that, unfortunately my head coach lost her job, but I was able to get a coaching job at Southern New Hampshire. I got to live at home, save some money, but it was a really cool kind of full circle moment because the head coach at Southern New Hampshire, her name is Karen Pinkos. She's still there. And she had recruited me to Northeastern as a student athlete. And Northeastern was in the America East. So I continued to play against her, and we maintained a nice rapport and a relationship through the recruiting process through college. And then as she became a first-time head coach, I became her assistant. And that was really cool, just switching gears from looking at everything as a player to really focusing on, I can't go out there and do it. I have to actually show you how to do it. I have to mentor and help you through how to do it. And it was a really cool transition for me to be on the court and really get my start in coaching at Southern New Hampshire.
What was that experience like for you going to Lehigh and getting to be the assistant coach there?
That was a really great experience, really outside of my comfort zone. I was able to be on a staff with some really experienced coaches. Sue Troyan, the head coach, Glenn Rigney had been with her for a very long time. He's a very well respected recruiter. But moving again, I had already moved to Illinois and back, and now I was moving again to Pennsylvania. I didn't have any friends, I didn't have any family, but I knew I was passionate about coaching. And Lehigh is such an amazing academic institution. The Patriot League is such a really world-renowned conference, certainly in the country, of just high academics, great balance between academics, athletics, and an opportunity to learn from a coach like Sue was was really beneficial in my career, especially now me being a mom. And at the time I wasn't a mom, I was in my 20s, but I watched Sue just work so hard and do everything she could to be the best mother that she could be and the best coach that she could be. And she showed me that you could do both, that it was challenging and hard, but that you could do both. And we had a lot of success there, and it was really fun to be able to recruit to such a terrific institution as Lehigh.
Going to LIU, what was that experience like for you being their assistant coach?
Well, it was a big change from the Lehigh Valley going down to Brooklyn. I actually was living outside of the city, so I was commuting about an hour and a half. But I worked for a woman that was actually from the South, and she had a lot different perspectives, a lot of different philosophies and coaching. And I really feel like my game expanded in a way, my basketball mind expanded of just a way of doing things that were much different than how I had kind of learned up here in the Northeast. I feel like a lot of my defensive philosophies and a lot of the way that I organize practice, Gail Strigler, the head coach at the time, um, really had a big influence on those philosophies and those values that I have in terms of teaching defense and pressure. Again, program that had a lot of success that was in the rebuilding stage, but we won a lot of games, and it was a really cool experience. Very challenging and very different to sell New York City, but I did fall in love with the city. It was I learned the subway systems very well. I know all about the Metro North, and and certainly that was a really cool experience to be part of that buzz and that energy of going into New York City every day. So I gained a lot of valuable experience certainly from that job.
For you as a coach, what was that transition like going from coaching on a D1, D2 level to going to the military academy and going to Army to coach?
Yeah, I think, at the Division II level, there's a lot less coaches. The resources are a lot lower, so you have to make a lot more with less. But I wore so many hats. And I think that the experience of me being actually a Division II coach was one of the most valuable because I had to do everything. I was thrown into the fire. I had to, from doing a golf outing to starting a camp to doing individual workouts, scouting, everything that you would, do in a specific job as like, one of the 3 or 4 assistants that you have on a Division I staff. I had to do it all. But I think that experience and just being able to be at different institutions and get a diverse perspective of, what different institutions could offer, how to sell, the different schools and the unique opportunities that each, had their own niche and selling in the recruiting process and dealing with different types of student athletes at these institutions. Um, I really was able to kind of take and learn and those pieces as I brought to West Point, and West Point being the premier leadership institution in the world. It was an amazing honor to be able to recruit players that would eventually be leaders in our country and future officers that were going to really um, commit themselves to selfless service. So I knew I had kind of a bigger mission than just recruit players that were going to be great players and win games, but to recruit, really high character individuals that were going to help, elevate the U.S. Army. So it was kind of a cool dual role there. And while I worked there, I learned so much from head coach Dave McGarity, who had been on the men's staff for on the men's side for 20 plus years, gone to the NCAA tournament, coach of the year multiple times, switches over gears to the women's side. And I think I was able to get so much of a different view of basketball in terms of how maybe men's basketball is and different approaches. And I learned that there's not that much difference between men's and women's basketball, except above the rim. It's basketball is basketball. And Dave really put a lot of trust in me there. And I feel like because I had the experience, I had done every job. I had been the director of basketball operations, doing, going to get people's lunches, doing the small tasks, understanding how important those small tasks are for the big picture of an organization, for an athletic department, but more importantly, a team and a head coach. But I took all that and really brought that to West Point, and he gave that trust in me to run practices and to make a lot of decisions recruiting. And I feel like he truly prepared me to, you're never really fully ready to become a head coach, but I feel like that experience really prepared me most to become a head coach.
What were some of your biggest accomplishments at Army West Point as a coach?
I think some of the things that I'm most proud about is the young women and how they matured over their freshman year to their senior year, their plebe year to their first year, and then going and graduating to become second lieutenants in the U.S. Army, and just watching that maturation. It's a really proud moment when you're in the recruiting process and you're telling a player about what you believe that they could do, and sometimes they don't even see that in themselves. So I think one piece is just watching that growth and watching them mature into strong, confident young women, and walking through really difficult things, like boot camp, like field training, things that they thought they couldn't do. And then on the basketball court, I mean, I think that there is so many things to look back on and be so proud of. 4 years in a row, we went to postseason tournaments, 2 NCAA appearances. The class of 2016 won 99 games. I recruited a player, Kelsey Minato from California, who went on to be, the leading male or female, and got a, and it truly was, with the San Antonio Stars, it truly was a magical time. And to know that these players had so many other responsibilities and so many other distractions, yet they still came to the court, and they were committed to be Division I athletes, and they competed at the highest level, and they were champions in everything that they did. So a lot to be proud of, and look back on, just the pride that I have and how hard those players worked to accomplish what they did.
For you, what was that feeling like getting that call from Albany to become their next head coach?
It was really exciting. I mean, I was very flattered. I think when I was in the interview process, the Albany job opened, and I was kind of like, oh gosh, like I don't have a chance at that. This is a program that has been a mid-major powerhouse. It is a program that has had so much success. At the time, they had won seven out of the last eight championships. They had beat Florida in the NCAA tournament. And I was actually at that game because we had played Syracuse in the same pod when I was at Army West Point. So I watched that upset happen live. Um, and as I went through the interview process, I just really felt like I connected with the sport administrator, Carol White, and the athletic director, Mark Benson. And I just felt like their values and our vision for where the program could go aligned. And I knew that it was going to be a little bit different. We were going to be in a rebuilding stage because some of the players that I thought were going to be there were no longer there once I accepted the position. But they just had all the confidence in me. They gave me the support I needed to take the time to rebuild the program without taking shortcuts. And just being able to have them choose me. I sometimes think I pulled the wool over their eyes. Like, how did this happen? And I think part of it is luck. It's luck, it's timing. But it's ended up being just a really good fit. I played in this league. I went to a state school. I graduated from a state school. It's close to my family. It really checks all the boxes. A great place to raise a family, and I was lucky enough that they chose me.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the court for the first time as a head coach?
I was extremely nervous. My heart was racing. I was sweating a lot. And when I had to walk out there, I was like, do I stand up? Do I sit down? Do I walk up? Do I stay in the same spot? Where do I stand? Where's the coaching box? And I remember my first game ever coaching, I got warned from the officials for going outside the coaching box. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't even know where the coaching box is. Because I had only stood up one time in a game when I had to replace Dave McGarity. But I was overwhelmed with gratitude. I was overtaken with just um, gratitude and appreciation that I had this opportunity to impact so many young people, and that I knew I had such a big responsibility to deliver on the promises that I make in the recruiting process, the things that I say to the players to ensure that they always have a positive environment for growth and learning. And I truly took that personally. And when I stepped out on that court, and I kind of like, I had to learn by fire, because you never really know until you move over and you become a head coach. But I knew I just had a great staff. I knew I had an administrative team and administration that was really supportive, and that I could do it. And sometimes I had to tell myself, Colleen, you can do it. You get that imposter syndrome, like, do I really know what I'm doing? But you fill in the blanks with hard work. You roll up your sleeves. No job is too big or too small. And you just try to do things the right way, with treating people the right way, without taking shortcuts, and really focusing on building a culture. And I think that when I stepped on the court for that first time, I really felt like, okay, up to this point, when I'm going to coach this game, I've treated the players right. We're prepared to face this game. I'm prepared as a coach for all my years of experience. And now this is going to be a ride, and we'll see where this takes us.
As a new head coach, what was that like building the coaching staff around you and the players around you?
It's a big challenge, but I think it's definitely the most important thing when you become a head coach is building your staff. I was lucky enough to have been in the business for quite some time, so I had really good relationships with some of the coaches, specifically in the Northeast. And so I was able to really connect to my mentors and say, hey, do you have people that might be interested in working at Albany? And who would that right fit be? I knew I needed a staff that were connectors, that wanted to do this for the same reasons that I did, to lead and mentor young people. So I wanted to have shared values. I wanted to be around other like-minded people. And I knew I needed hard workers, because we had some work to do. We had to fill a whole team. We had 7 players. We needed to recruit 9 and sign 9 players in like 2 months. I first hired Megan Methvin, who worked with me for 2 years at West Point. So I knew her body of work. She had played for a mentor, Trish Brown at Stonehill. I knew their program, a championship program. She was a terrific college player. I coached against her when she was a player. But I knew her work ethic and her body of work and her capability working with her at West Point. So it was kind of my first hire. And then just from there, building the rest of the staff was just, I got really lucky, and we stayed together for 6 years. And I think that for this business is pretty unique and pretty special, and they truly became family. And we were all invested. It wasn't my team, it was our team. And everything that we went through, wins and losses, we did it together. And we were all equally invested in the players and the success and building this the right way. And it was a lot of work and took a lot of time, but we had so much fun doing it.
What was that feeling like getting your first win as a head coach?
I thought it would never happen. So it was an amazing feeling. I remember it distinctly. It was against Manhattan. And I remember talking to a dear friend, Heather Voolen, the head coach, before the game. And at the time, I believe we had maybe 4 losses. We were 0-4 or something, 0-5 maybe. And she had said to me, and she was kind of a newer head coach. She said to me, like, I said to the announcers before the game, like, nobody knows what kind of coach you are yet. You know what I mean? It's going to take you time, but you're going to figure it out. You're a great coach. I know you're going to do well, and kind of keep your head up. And then I ended up winning the game. And I was like, I was pretty excited of her confidence in me, and that was really, really kind of her to say to a new head coach. And I don't know if that gave me the extra confidence to coach to win, but when I got that first win, I took a deep breath, and I said, okay, I can do this. I can win at this level.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a coach versus for your players?
I think a typical game day for me might look, it looks significantly different than the players, but my day is kind of crazy because I'm a mom. So I usually wake up between 5 and 5:30. On the day of a game, I work out. I either run or lift or go to the gym for about an hour to an hour and a half. I get something to eat. I watch more film. Usually, if I'm on the treadmill, I've got my computer up. I'm rewatching whatever film I want to be looking at, reviewing, whether it's our game, their game, clips, but really focusing on that treadmill, watching the film. I write up my shoot around. We go to walkthrough. I meet with my staff before the walkthrough, make sure we know how we're defending plays, make sure we know how we're defending out of bounds plays, making sure everybody's on the same page with the scout. We go to our shoot around. We have our shoot around. Then we have our pregame meal. That's when I usually do some, mindfulness, some meditation, kind of hang out, have some coffee with the staff. This is for like a day game. I know the players go back and sleep. And I always take a shower and get ready. And I take multiple showers. I take a shower in the morning after I work out. Then I go to shoot around. Then I take another shower before the game, get myself ready. But I do a lot of deep breathing and some visualization and things that I really incorporated recently that have helped me think about how I want to be as a coach and how I want to be in that game. And to just really have some moments, some time to have some deep thinking. And my players are sleeping and focusing because they're always come ready to play. And then about 2 hours before the game, we arrive at the gym, and I head down to write on the board about an hour and a half before the game. Get my pregame speech ready in the office before and between. Write my notes down about that motivational speech of how we're going to get the W. Then we have the game. And then after that, the players go out with their families, and I debrief with the staff. We spend time as a coaching staff after the game.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the program?
Sure, I would love to. The culture that we've built for the program is really one that's based on a family atmosphere. It's based on care and connection. It's based on building relationships, because this world is a relationship business, and relationships that are authentic and genuine, and having real, transparent conversations. Sometimes those are difficult conversations, but spending time, because the only way to build trust is to spend time. So we spend a lot of time together as a staff. We spend a lot of time as a staff with our players, and we spend a lot of time individually with our players. And I specifically make a lot of time for my players individually. And I think that when they know that you care about them, and when you know that you've taken the time to build the trust, they can have a more deliberate experience, meaning they can be intentional with what they're doing and they can accept feedback. They can accept coaching and they don't think of it as criticism. They think about is, oh, the coaches believe I have this potential and they're helping me reach it. And that standard of care and connectivity is also based on striving for excellence, and not just on the basketball court, but everywhere we are. So that's in the community, being role models, giving back. The past, I think 3 or 4 years, we've won the community service award for the department for the most community service hours, and our players love to do it. They're amazing role models, and young people need role models to look up to emulate. In the classroom, last year we had the second best. I know it's brutal. I was upset that we finished second, but it's still amazing. Second GPA in the country, the WBCA top 25 poll. We were number 2. So getting it done in the classroom, and then, winning championships, going to postseason tournaments. It's like when you have a basis of this is what our vision is, and you create a clear vision as a staff and a collective unit with your team, and everybody's bought into that vision, you can strive for excellence and create that championship culture. And once that championship culture was kind of set, it just is passed on every year. So that core of players brings that, shows that, demonstrates that to the newcomers, whether they're transfers or freshmen. They see, okay, this is how we do things here. This is how we operate. We operate to the highest standard all the time, and we know that this is preparing us for life. And that's my goal, is to create leaders for the future, to create players that are confident, able, and realize their potential, because they already embody so many amazing characteristics as athletes. They know how to cooperate. They're competitive. They're accountable. They know how to push through adversity, and all those things are going to serve them as professionals. And I'm just honing those skills and developing those skills with my staff, holistic, so that they can go on to a life of personal and professional excellence.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
We have a very competitive conference, and recently the most competitive teams have been Maine and Vermont. They have been really, really tough. And every year there's always that other team that's gives us a lot of headache. Binghamton being another SUNY school, they always have some great talented players. Bryant, scrappy. But some of the other teams in our league, UMass Lowell, NJIT, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So it's a very challenging conference. It's nice that where we're located, we're kind of centrally located, and makes our bus trips a little easier. But a lot of parity, and a lot of competitiveness.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Maine Black Bears comes to home versus going to Maine Black Bears?
Well, I think we know going to Maine Black Bears is going to be wild, because the Maynards really come out and fill up the pit, and they are loud. They get the football team there, and they do a really good job, and they have a really nice following. And Albany and Maine have created a nice rivalry, so it's always fun, difficult, and loud to play there. And I think when they come here, it's more of the same. I mean, we have a tremendous support at UAlbany with our new arena. It truly is a high level of experience. New locker room, new arena, great fan experience to watch a game. We have season ticket holders. We have a really successful kids club that in a Pen Palace club, that we have lots of families and local, youth teams playing in our games. So I feel like it's a tremendous atmosphere, and it's only elevated since the new arena, but We always do a little extra marketing to get them out for the Black Bears.
What have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish so far as head coach?
I think there's been a lot of things I've accomplished that I feel really proud of, and a lot of it's not even just the wins and losses. I mean, it feels amazing to have won a championship. Go to the NCAA tournament and win over 20 games. The last 3 years, go to the NIT. That's those are amazing, amazing statistical, successes. But I think the successes for me come really every day because you truly have to love this job to do it. It's time consuming. It's weekends, it's nights, it's holidays. It takes me away from my family. It takes me away from my bed to sleep. But I think some of the successes that I'm really proud of is to know that I have many players that have gone on to continue to extend their careers as professionals playing overseas right now. When I get that call from a former player that they got a new job or they had a baby or they're getting married, and they want to include me in their life, I think those are the successes that feel really special because I know in the moment that it's sometimes hard to appreciate how much the coaches believe in you and want them to be successful, and you don't always realize it till after you graduate. And I think being part of their life after they graduate, makes me feel like, I was doing something right. And they do know how much I care about them and how much I believe in them and want them to be successful. Um, and I think one of the coolest successes for me is my first year was really challenging. And I had a player that came into my office and told me that she hated basketball and she didn't want to play anymore. Because I was her third head coach in 4 years, and she just didn't love basketball anymore. And during her last year, she really refound her love for basketball with, the way that our relationship and our coaching staff's relationship was, and how just the year went for her and her support that she had. And now she's still playing basketball 7 years later professionally in Spain for somebody that wanted to quit her senior year. So, that's certainly a big success that I know our whole entire coaching staff feels very proud about.
For you as a coach, what is it like seeing those prospective student athletes fall in love with the Albion campus and the basketball court?
I love hearing the stories about how much they're enjoying their social life, how, even our practice player, I was talking to him the other day and he said that, before COVID, he was planning on going to a different school, but then he fell in love with Albany so much he couldn't leave. He was a local kid, but watching recruits come on campus and seeing how beautiful the fountains are at the podium and the academic opportunities and what UAlbany can offer them academically, and how their face lights up when they meet our players and they see how respectful they are, and how fun our coaches are, and how really just normal and open and outgoing we all are. It's really cool to see them fall in love with UAlbany and choose to come to school here.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing them put on that uniform for the first time?
It's amazing. I mean, sometimes you recruit these players for 3 years and sometimes you recruit them for 3 months. But watching them put on the uniform, watching the pride they have in themselves and really just realizing a dream that they had as a young girl. And I always tell them to envision themselves as, their 7-year-old self in the stands, watching them and thinking that, you're actually doing something that you always wish for, so be grateful, be where your feet are. And, it's certainly a joy for me to watch that, excitement, that they have when they finally get to represent UAlbany.
What is that like getting to see those seniors put on that uniform for the last time representing you, Albany?
It's very emotional to see the seniors put on the jersey, and me knowing, having been a women's basketball Division I player, um, what it's like when that final buzzer goes off, and you try to explain like the urgency, like the fact that this is the best 4 years of your life, and it goes by like this, and they think, okay, coach, the days are long, but the years are short. But when they put that uniform on, I'm overwhelmed with the gratitude of being part of their journey, being a small part of their journey, and knowing that they're going to go on to even better things in their life. Like this is a small blip on the radar, but just watching how they've walked through so many hard things, and being a Division I athlete is so hard and so challenging on so many levels, that knowing that this is really going to serve them for the rest of their lives.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those players go on and playing in the WNBA or overseas?
It's amazing. I mean, being able to watch Kelsey Minato go and play in a exhibition game for the San Antonio Stars, I was like, the biggest fan. I was fangirling crazy. I mean, it was amazing. Just thinking about all the hard work and remembering seeing her play, like, in high school, and not ever envisioning that that would be possible, or getting all the text messages from my players, and a couple of them are playing against each other in Sweden right now in the professional league. And I mean, it's just, I'm so happy for them, because to me, I just want them to be happy. I just want them to feel like they're always a part of UAlbany, that they can look back on this experience fondly. They can feel like they built a lot of relationships, that they were challenged, that they grew as people. And when they're happy, I'm happy.
For you, what would you tell your younger self looking back on your career now as a head coach?
Oh, that's a good question. I would tell my younger self that you're you can do more than you think you can do. You don't ever really realize what you can do until you walk through it and you just try. And my younger self, I would tell my younger self to stay strong and to stay confident. And I would say, like, you know what? This is worth it. All your hard work and what you've set your mind to, and the goals and the sacrifices that you've made to spend time with friends or away from family or moving, that it's worth it, and to stay the course.
What are some of your future plans for the women's basketball program moving?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to advocate for my program and to move it forward. There's no better time to be part of women's basketball than right now, with what's happening in the with the Olympics this year. I mean, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and these amazing rookies, and this, really just amazing product that the W is turning out right now. And I'm just striving to kind of go on those coattails and really just try to continue to promote and create awareness within the community of the Capital Region about how cool women's basketball is, about what a great product, terrific role models, and what an amazing time and opportunity to be a part of, joining the Great Dane family and following women's basketball. So, in the future, I'm hoping to, really continue that scholastic, ideal and value that is the NCAA. That is why I did this, to, help develop student athletes, but also changing with the times, the ever-changing landscape, increasing the opportunities for name, image, and likeness collectives, ensuring that my players have everything that they need and deserve, because they work so hard and they deserve it. And but again, it's not always about that. To me, it's about the people and the experience, and it's about the development for your life. But I have lofty goals, and I want to continue to just elevate every year.
What advice would you have those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college women's basketball?
I would give them the advice to say, you got this. You're going to be okay. Freshman year is hard. The best thing that happens to freshmen is they become sophomores, but that, the number one thing when you're entering college is to focus on coming in shape, and doing all the workouts in the summer, so that you don't have to worry about getting in shape when you arrive. So you can actually learn the basketball, and not just, only hear your breath heavy as you run. And I think the other thing is just be the best follower you can. Attach yourself to the people that are doing the right things. Attach yourself to the teammates that are the hardest workers, that are the most coachable, that are doing things the right way, and follow them, and become the best follower you can, and give 100% effort all the time. And know that you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes all the time, but mistakes are okay. And basketball is the game of mistakes, but to push through it, think about the next play. But whatever you do, just try your best. And that's all the coaches would ever ask for.
What advice would you give those college juniors transitioning into being seniors and leading the program?
I think to give advice to juniors entering their senior year is that, to now there's no better time than the present. There's urgency into becoming a senior in that leadership role. And maybe many of the juniors have had a leadership role, but that it's time that there's no time to waste. So really hunting opportunities to get better, hunting opportunities of every practice, every drill. It's an opportunity for them to get better and their team to get better, and to not just wait for it to happen, to make it happen. And to enjoy the moment too, to step back and enjoy going on the road trips and seeing the other gyms and seeing the other locker rooms and really soaking in this amazing opportunity that you've worked for since you were a little girl to accomplish, and take that moment to of gratitude as well.
What advice would you give those players looking to play in the WNBA?
For the players looking in the WNBA, I mean, I think that you have to be super committed. If you have a goal to play, be one of the 144 players or whatever the roster is now, I know they're expanding. I mean, those
Oh, you froze. I'll start that question over.
Sorry, I lost you.
You're fine. What advice would you give those players looking to play in the WNBA?
I would give them the advice to, number one, it's very hard to play in the W because there's only about 144 players in the league. I know it's expanding, but um, to make a plan and an action plan of how you're going to be able to accomplish that. And that starts with your nutrition, your strength and conditioning, how you're going to rest and recovery, what you're going to do to ensure that your body's in, prepared and ready to play at an elite level. But to create a plan to accomplish a really big dream, and then work the plan, because hope isn't a strategy in this situation. You can't be hopeful that you'll get a tryout or hopeful that you'll make it. You have to decide that this is what you want to do, and then every day you work towards accomplishing that goal.
What advice would you give those players transitioning from being players to getting into coaching?
I think that the biggest thing when players are transitioning to coaches is, like, as a player, start to really build relationships with your current coaches if you don't already have a good relationship, because those are the ones that are going to get you a job, number one. Those are the ones that can mentor you and have conversations with you about, oh, as a coach, this is what I'm seeing. Let your coaches know that you want to be a coach. But it's really important that as a student athlete, you're doing things the right way, that you're being trustworthy, that you have a leadership role on the team, so that those coaches know that they're friends, because we all know each other. Will say, hey, I have a player and she'd be great. She'd be terrific for you. So building a relationship with your current coach, doing things the right way, being a great leader on your team. And then from there, just learning and watching, calling coaches that you were recruited by, or ask your current head coach what are good coaches to connect to, build relationships, build networks. Because most of the time, the reason why people don't get jobs is because they don't know who people are. And just getting an email is kind of tough. So asking to talk to a coach on the phone. Every coach wants to be helpful. People like to help each other. So if, a student athlete texted me or called me and said, hey, would you mind having a conversation? I would love to. And then I would build a relationship for them. And maybe I don't have a job now, but maybe down the road I will. But I think learning and growing, building a relationship with your current head coach are really important.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
I think the biggest advice that I would give new head coaches is that, to be patient, to forgive yourself, to know that you can't get from point A to point C before going through point B. It's a long process to build a culture and to get your program to where it's yours, it's your identity, it's your vision shared with the players. And it just takes time. And when you think you can't do it, you can, and you just keep pushing through like you always have, to believe in yourself, and to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I think the biggest advice is just your staff is be surrounded around assistant coaches, hire assistant coaches that are like-minded, that are invested, that you enjoy spending time with, because boy, you're going to spend a lot of time with them. But that can help you be the best version of yourself. Because you can't do it alone. I only am one person. If I didn't have a great staff around me, supporting me, helping me, spreading the vision, building relationships, we couldn't accomplish our goals.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program at?
Yep, you can find me at Coach Mull 2 at Coach Mullen 2, sorry, on Instagram. Same with the X, you at UAlbany WBB, Instagram, Facebook, the X, and would love to follow and see what's going on in UAlbany basketball. Great things ahead.
Thank you again, Coach Mullen, for your interview, and best luck in your future at UAlbany as the head women's basketball coach.
Thanks so much, Brandon. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Colleen Mullen, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.